Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Devin Adams. I am a Fortinet instructor here in Tempe, Arizona for Dynamic Worldwide Training. And yeah, we're just moving along with our videos here. And in our last video, we set up our remote access infrastructure here so we can test some remote access VPN connections. So looks like my FortiDuck here, who I'm slowly losing my sanity with, is on the road. And what is he, like an Oktoberfest or something in Germany? We don't really know. And that's the whole point of having a dial-up user VPN access, is because it's dial-up, because we don't know where they're calling in from, IP address-wise. All right? So that's what we mean when we say dial-up remote access. So here we go. We have somewhere out there in the world with no NAT. Now, when we say NAT, we mean a device that is doing NATing. And if you guys know your VPN stuff here, the ESP, Encapsulation Security Payload Protocol, actually encrypts after layer 3. So there is no TCP UDP ports to grab onto. And so VPNs fundamentally break NAT. So if we do have a device like this sum up here, I cannot think of a good name for that, which is just a little pfSense router that I configured, is doing NAT or network address translation, our VPN's not going to work. So we're going to have to put on something called NAT transversal, which once it's detected, it's going to kick in, and it's going to add, after the ESP, a little UDP 4500 for it to grab onto so it can do its natting. So no big deal. All right. And just like always, guys, I've gotten a couple of requests for these. I usually don't do requests straight off of YouTube, but enough people was interested in it. So I really don't know what level of detail I'm going to go into. And I don't really plan these. I just kind of roll with them. I probably spent more time thinking about that duck in the car than I did actually what I'm going to do for this demo. So why don't we begin first and foremost by going into our FortiGates, or at least into our headquarters, and think up a scenario. So obviously, you know, FortiDuck sitting here on his roadster drinking a beer. Hope he doesn't get pulled over. And he needs access to, let's say, an internal resource back home. So that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my Windows machine, which it looks like I already did. And we do have an internal or an intranet website here, and it's just an IIS server running on the domain controller, which is a great example of an internal resource if we need it. And let's see if that's up and running. So if we type in the private IP address, we should get the IIS welcome page if everything is working just fine. And there it is. So now, if I was a YouTuber and I was cool, I'd probably make up a web page. I'm not going to do that at 11 o'clock at night. Anyways, but this is, let's just pretend that this is something that you cannot access publicly facing without some kind of VPN access to get back in. We're going to say it's like our HR portal, and FortiDuck wants to get paid for his escapades. And he needs to go ahead and plug in his laptop, remote back into the office, come to this wonderful IIS welcome page, and get paid. So, good times, FortiDuck. Okay. Anyways. All right, so that's our scenario. So how are we going to accomplish this? Well, let's go into the FortiGate and see what's going on here. So our FortiGate's IP address should be 254 in this lab environment. All right, I'm going to log in. There we are. Okay. And yeah, we have to make ourselves a VPN connection. So, like I said, let's just go ahead and do it. And, you know, depending on how far I want to go into this, we'll do some explaining too. I might break this up into a couple of videos though, guys, just because it's getting late on my side. Well, let's go to VPN. Oh, and as you guys can see, I mean, there is IPSec templates here. Where are my templates? Right here. And these are pretty much pre-configured settings for things like, look at that, dial-up using the Fortinet client, or dial-up to a FortiGate, or a site-to-site FortiGate, or look at this, dial up natively, right? Using just Windows, or dial up using Cisco's IPSec client. I might even have some fun and just try a couple of those out maybe later on. I'm not too sure. But for right now, we're going to say that FortiDuck is going to be using the client. All right. So there we go. We say dial up using the Forticlient. Okay. And this kind of just tells you what kind of settings are predetermined. All right. And most importantly, though, is that if we take a look here, all right, let's see here, phase 1 interface with tunneling true, all right, blah, 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 blah. Somewhere here there should be something about NAT transversal. All right, there we go. See how NAT's going to be enabled, and I promise you guys, look at that, endpoint registration. These are some of the settings that are just there by default, all right? So let's take a look though. Are you guys ready? Let's actually try this out. I'm going to try to use the wizard first and foremost just to see how far it gets us, okay? And we're not doing a site-to-site, we're doing a remote access, and we have to name this connection, all right? So this is going to be, I don't know, FortiDuck. There we go. Okay. It is going to be client-based, and it's going to be using the Forticlient. So we hit next. All right. Now here it's saying what interfaces are we going to be listening to. Now we do have an SD-WAN configuration. So the SD-WAN does logically group those interfaces together, and essentially allows us to abstract all the different connections. But if you notice here, when we drop down, we need to pick an actual interface. So this is one of those times where even if your SD-WAN is configured, you're still going to have the ability to point to those outside interfaces. All right, so there we go. We're going to say port 1, okay? And we're going to authenticate using a pre-shared key. All right, so now with the pre-shared key, just make sure that it's nice and long and complex if you are using this in production, or you might want to think about doing a user cert, which is not too bad, especially if you have a internal CA already that can crunch out user certs, like maybe in a Windows environment. We don't have one of those set up. So here we go. We're going to do a password. All right. Now the user group, okay, we did not necessarily create one yet, and this is most likely going to be for our what's known as XOF. And XOF is where it establishes a phase 1 tunnel, and then it's going to take advantage of that phase 1 to pass additional credentials over for verification. And then once they get verified, phase 2 can happen. So you know what? I'm going to just create a new one here. I love that you can do this, by the way, without having to go all the way out. And I'm going to call this remote VPN users, right? And its members, okay? Say how we have nothing here in our local ones, but hey, look at this. We already set up that LDAP bind, right? Isn't that so cool, guys? Come on. Come on, that is cool. So, here we go. And we have our actual groups here. Let's see. I can't even remember how we set this up. You know, I'm just going to say domain users. It's probably going to be the easiest one. Now, in reality, you'd probably want to create a user group that actually had, you know, some kind of OU or something like that that contained it in here. I just don't have it set up ahead of time. But that's going to say if anyone comes back as a domain user, they can gain access to the VPN tunnel. So that's fine. That's cool. That works. Boom. All right, so let's hit next. Okay. Now the local interface is where it's going to be popping out of. All right. And as you guys can see here, we have our LAN connection. And we want them to go ahead and get an IP address. And here's our local addresses that they can hit up. Now, I don't want them just doing all here, so I just want them accessing the LAN subnet. And with the client ranges, this is what we're going to pass out to them, because we don't know where they're coming from. We don't want overlapping IP addresses, so I'm just going to use something like that. 172.16. 1-10 through 172.16.1.40, and that will be passed out to them when they logged in. Now with the DNS server, it's going to say, hey, are you going to use the system's DNS, the system's DNS of the machine that it's logging into, or do you want to specify a DNS server? Well, if it's coming inside and using internal resources, we probably should point it to our internal DNS server, which just happens to be the domain controller, so it can resolve things from our internal resources. And here with split tunneling, now split tunneling is where traffic that is destined just to the headquarters will be forwarded to the VPN tunnel. Everything else can just leave its own physical network connection, like if I'm going to bugsbunny.com or something like that. Now if you turn that off, all traffic on FortiDuck's laptop there will be directed back to headquarters. That's going to be up to you if you need that level of security. All right, so it's obviously going to be a little bit more overhead. And the endpoint registration is that if we want to take the client and register it and the device into the FortiGate itself, you know what, we'll leave that option open just in case we want to do it down the road. So let's go ahead and hit next after that. Also, are we going to give them the ability to save their password or not? Do you want it to auto-connect once it comes alive? Do you want that connection to be maintained? All right, now usually with these, if I had FortiDuck always always needing to get back to the office, maybe I would do the auto connect and always keep it alive. But remember, he's just trying to do what? He's just trying to get paid for drinking beer and driving around in his roadster there in Germany. So let's go ahead and create. All right, now here it shows it what it did. Okay, but also right here is your principal instructions to give to the FortiDuck. All right, so it gives you the IP address, also the pre-shared key. All right, and also enter the description name of the tunnel itself. All right, so not too bad. And then here on Android, it shows you how to do the same thing. All right, so let's go ahead and do it. Okay. So now that that's all set up, now if we go to show tunnel list, you can see the tunnel. There it is. And if we double click this bad boy, you'll see some of the options that it did here. All right, so for example, it's listening on port 1. All right, it's going to have the IP addresses. See how we have the XAuth that was configured. Okay, and then if we convert this to a custom tunnel, we can actually dig a little bit more in here. So we have aggressive with the pre-shared key. All right, let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. And as you guys notice here, NAT transversal is turned on by default. Now, it does not hurt to keep NAT transversal turned on. All that simply means is that if NAT is detected, it will go ahead and switch over to the UDP 4500 going forward instead of just using the standard 500 to negotiate phase 1, then the ESP headers, not headers, but encapsulation after the fact. So not too bad there. All right, so not too bad. And yeah, but also look at the phase 2 selectors. They're quad zeros. All right, now a lot of times they don't like that, other vendors, but on the FortiGates you can't do that. So not too shabby. So, all right, anything else looks exciting here? I don't think it is. So let's go ahead and just close it out and see if we can't connect. So, all right, let's do it. So now, FortiDuck, he wants to get paid. He's in Germany somewhere. So the first thing he's going to do is actually download the Forticlient. Now, there's different ways that you can provision this. You can do it either through an SSL portal and push it down yourselves through there, or you can just simply say download the client, and we're going to try that approach. So, all right. Now, there's a lot of licensing changing with the Forticlient, but I believe that the VPN application is still available, so without any kind of weird licensing. It used to be that you got like basic endpoint control for for free, and if you wanted to register it with the FortiGate, then you had to pay. Doesn't seem to be the case now. So, all right, let's see if this is working here. Everything is so slow on my 1,000-year-old laptop. Sorry, everyone. Here we go. All right, I do not want Edge or anything. Here we go. Come on. All right, so let's go to Google real quick because I can't remember what the URL is to get the Forticlient. It's probably something like forticlient.fortinet.com, but we'll just say download Forticlient. There we go. And it should take us to the web page. So here we are. See, Forticlient. Jeez, it's right there. All right, my bad. So here we go. Accept some cookies. Yum, 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 yum. All right. All right. Oh, yes, we do love you. All right, here we go. See how there's a whole bunch of stuff now that requires an actual purchase. That's brand new, guys. I'm still trying to figure out the licensing change there, but if you come down a little bit further, you can see that we have the Forticlient VPN client that we can just download. So that works for both IPSec and also for the SSL VPNs. Let's get it for Windows. All right. Now I know that we're running on the FortiGate 6.0, but the 6.2 client should work just fine. Okay. So we'll go ahead and let that download, and then we'll run it to install it. All right. So we're going to hit yes. And remember, this is FortiDuck's computer somewhere in Germany. All right. And then it's downloading the image itself. So it might just take a moment. Now, while it's downloading, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a support license, you can go to support.fortinet.com, log in, and then pick your FortiOS version, and then download the client from there too, and just have it already a part of maybe a laptop image that you deploy, or maybe on some kind of company website that you can download. This will just take a second to download itself. I might just hit pause here so you don't have to watch the paint dry. Just one moment. All right, there we go. Just had to finish downloading. So we read the agreement. All right, sure. Sounds good. So it's now installing the SSL, the IPSec, Forticlient VPN connector, and then it's just yeah, plowing along, just closing out some windows. Here we go. And once that gets done, we'll put in our information here. So, all right. Nice. Kind of. All right, you can do it. You can do it. Now, also, guys, remember to also keep these things up to date. I know that there was a big fuss recently about there being a vulnerability here, but it was for an outdated version of the Forticlient. Just like anything else in this world, guys, you gotta make sure that you're checking stuff that gets updated for a reason, and make sure that you apply your updates for security. So, installing drivers, and that's actually what happens. It installs a virtual interface that essentially acts as the point where it's going to encrypt the tunnel. So once it does it, today, you can do it. I thought I was all clever hitting pause while I was doing it before, but might have to hit pause again. All right. That's the only problem about having too much stuff on this poor laptop. It's too slow. So, all right. The second I reach for that pause button too, it's going to get done. It's just how life works. Here we go. All right, here we go. Finally, finished. Yay. So we're going to hit finish. And there it is. There's the Forticlient VPN. Good stuff. So let's go ahead and double click it and configure it. So, all right. Big, beautiful application here. You can do it. Load, 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 load. I might have to shut down some of my other machines here. All right, yes, I totally acknowledge this, totally. All right, there we go. That's what it looks like. We're going to say configure VPN. All right, it is a IPSec tunnel, and the connection's name is going to be to HQ. All right, the remote gateway is going to be that WAN1 IP address, which is 10.200.1.1. Okay, and we did do a pre-share key. All right, and then we are going to be prompted for login, and then I'm going to hit save, and let's try connecting it. All right, so here we go. It's going to reach out there. Wrong credentials. Okay. Wrong. It even told me right away. Wrong credentials. That's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and fix that. Let's disconnect. Come here, buddy. There we go. I didn't even see the username and password. All right, so this is FortiDuck. Hopefully he'll be able just to use his Windows credentials there. Let's try that again. No, it's still saying wrong password. All right. Now, if this does happen, where do we go? Where do we check it? Okay. I'm actually glad that it didn't work, because we can go ahead and go back to our headquarters, and I'll show you guys where to go to see what was going on there. So let's go ahead and, for starters, go to login reports, and there is VPN events. Okay. And as you guys can see here, we have our, right? We have our successes, our failures. So let's go ahead and open this up. It looks like the negotiation was successful. All right. And then it looks like we're failing our X auth. At least that's what it looks like there. All right. There we are. But it is showing that it's passing here, though. So at least that authentication is okay. But FortiDuck's obviously not happy. So now remember, I put them in the domain user. You know what? This is definitely not a lesson for authentication. It's just to get that tunnel up. So I'm gonna go ahead and cheat a little bit here, guys. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of keeping this video less than a half an hour, I didn't want it to go that long. I'm gonna go to users, user definitions, okay? Because I never set up a user group or anything like that. So I'm just gonna create a local user account to use instead, just to test this out. So I'm just going to say user, put in the password that I know is correct. All right. And I'm going to throw him into our remote VPN user group. Okay. That way we don't have to worry about, you know, did we pick FortiDuck to be the right one, so on and so forth. All right. All right, let's try that again. So here we go. So now we'll just say user, put in my password, and see if that doesn't work. All right, there you guys go. So it says to headquarters. All right, so and that's okay, because like I said, I wasn't looking for what you call it. I didn't have the security group set up ahead of time in my domain controller to point to FortiDuck to use its LDAP credentials. So I just made a local user just to test it, and it did. It made the connection through an added device. Remember that, guys. So NAT-T was detected, and it switched over to 4500, and we got through that NATed device. Okay. Now the question is, can FortiDuck Can he log into the IIS page from Germany? Well, let's test it. Let's load up our Internet Edge Explorer predecessor, or not predecessor, whatever. It's getting too late, guys. Here we go. Getting a little loopy. Gotta join 40 duck there. All right, and let's see if we can't log into that intranet site. So I could probably just try pinging it. Yeah, there you go. Guys, it just took so long in my environment because I had too many machines turned on in my GNS3. So, but there you guys go. That was a really quick example of how we can get remote access VPN labbed up and tested out. So that was a horrible, horrible video, but I will try to keep this environment alive for a while, maybe clean some stuff up, and we can always dissect a little bit more into this when we need it. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there because it is past my bedtime, and this video has gone on way too long. But we'll keep this lab environment alive a little bit longer. And we'll see what else we can throw in here. Maybe we'll try using one of the native clients on like our Windows machine instead of the Forticlient instead. So hopefully someone found something out there useful for this. And please feel free to leave messages in the comments field. And like I said, I do not maintain this account at all. I just do it on the side, and definitely not for any kind of monetary gain. So if I take a while to respond back, guys, I am sorry. So, all right, guys, until next time.